this is Alyssa, also known as Ceccelia, from Friday Night Murder Club. I am going to be playing more Embers of Magic. If you did not see, I had a part 1 earlier. This will be part 2. And we will start from where we left off. I guess I will load up. She struggled to pull her hands free of the rigging as Stolas complained, her white knuckle grip seeming to have cemented during the descent. Anne seemed none the worse for wear. His difficulties with getting the ship to properly fly instead of plummeting towards certain death had seemed a little more concern to him than picking a beverage to accompany breakfast. Speaking of which, she had lost hers. She was thankful that it had flown outwards during the death spiral and splattered neither her nor the spotless deck. Or Stolas.
Ho ho, that was a bit of fun, weren't it?
Oh, yes.
Now we've got to dip into the pulsoon of that there fog bank and parry the wind for our course.
What he said. She was convinced now, if she hadn't been before, that the want-to-be pirate had little to no idea of what he was saying.
Do you have any idea where we're going, Anne?
Ha 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 ha! Nary a clue, lass.
No, okay.
We're going to sortie in low and scout out for your ruins. Do it slow, like, lest we scuttle ourselves against them.
I think I read that one. I understand that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she nodded. She took a moment to examine the ship, with her cute little owl on her shoulder. She could feel the magic bound to the hull, some sort of reinforcement, she guessed, and another spell. The second was likely whatever let it fly. A modification of a spell that was supposedly once used to grant flight to brooms? She knew a similar spell fueled the flight of the island, but it had never been something she had particularly researched. You know, just the thing that keeps you afloat, but we don't know how that works. She regretted that now. The ship shifted hard as the pirate turned the wheel, banking them lower. She stumbled before catching herself on the railing. The pirate captain stood as steady as a stone. She felt out, drawing in a fraction of the magic on him, trying to identify what kept him so steady. She couldn't recognize a single aspect of the spell. Spiraling stars. Had the man been developing his own magic? Guilt struck her. He was more than half her age, though he didn't look it, and he apparently had a better grasp of magic than she did if he was already developing new spells. Her careful and intimately memorized catalog of every known spell seemed useless before someone who had created their own. It's true.
This is going to be quite the rocky ducking, lass.
Huh?
Huh? She didn't have a chance to fully digest the statement when the ship lurched out from beneath her, abruptly stopping, while she did not. Her arm cracked sharply against the bow as she tumbled over it. She only did a partial Titanic. Grandpa sat stock still. He had found a tree, and upon declaring the location perfect for fishing, cast his line. The hook now hung, free of any form of bait, 20 feet in the air, dangling from a branch. Apparently he's never been fishing before. It had then been there for at least 2 hours. Grandpa's pale eyes stared up at the bob with expectation on his face, the rod held happily with one gnarled foot. Babby could only sigh and watch.
How long do you think?
He fidgeted.
Are you hungry?
He finished weakly. And so he sat beside the old bird, crossing his wings moodily.
Don't fidget so, little one. This will never get a bite.
It was sad to see such a great bird descend so far into senility. Watching over him was the least Babby could do for the elder. It didn't mean he was going to enjoy it, though. Grandpa was the reason that the harpies had survived following the rupture. Of course, Babby hadn't been there. His dad's had, though? He let out a long sigh. Grandpa shot him a look. He looked away and watched the fog as it curled, his mind playing at shapes in the mist. For a moment, he swore he saw a form running through them, when the crack of a branch turned his head to Grandpa's tree. He caught only a glimpse as an immense shape glided like a whale between the waves and the sea of fog. The branch from which the lure had hung was gone, the lure snared on whatever had passed. The old bird's line spun wildly as it extended further and further, a beaming smile of delight playing across Grandpa's face. The old bird braced himself, ready to pull hard on the uncoiling line. Babby stared in horror as the line unwound, almost to the spool as he stepped forward. He snatched the rod from the elder's hands and barely tossed it aside before the line went taut, and the rod whipped away into the swirling mists of the swamp.
No, no! Now we have to go find my rod. Might have to catch the whale boat by hand.
What was that?
The whale boat. It's a type of kobold. It soars through the sky.
Oh, Lord. Flying kobolds. He seemed troubled for a moment.
No, I can't remember what a kobold is. I just know that I need the scales of a whaleboat for my tea.
That's strange.
I need to clear my head, boy.
The old bird began to waddle off after his rod, his feathers trailing in the mud. Babby watched wide-eyed as the elder walked. Then, with a resigned sigh, he followed. As the world had tumbled, she swore that the pirate had barely flinched during the impact, still gripping the mast. Ugh. Tearing herself free of the muddy pool that she had landed in, she looked down at her filthy clothes.
You still breathing, lass?
Ha, barely. Oh, and so is the owl. Has she just said I?
Whoop.
Heavy boots struck the ground beside her as she scraped at the mud, which clung to her face and clothes.
Yeah, I be having a change of clothes, if you be needing it.
Oh, good. She imagined herself in the pirate costume the captain wore.
No, that's alright.
She would deal with the mud for now.
Is there a reason you crashed the ship?
Aye, it be my first time taking her skyward.
That's a good reason. She considered snapping at him for bringing her on the ship's maiden voyage, but considering she had practically begged him to take her, she thought better of it.
Is it still, skyworthy?
Probably aye. Need to give her a glance over the bilge to make sure her hull tain't breached. But aye, we'll be skyward again in no time.
Good. I think.
She still wasn't sure if he was using half of the words correctly.
If you're going to check the ship, I think I'll go out and scout around a bit. See if I can find something to point us in the right direction.
She reached into the pouches at her side. Ginger, cayenne, and ginkgo. The herbs were dried and preserved, but as she inhaled, she still drew powder from them. She inhaled their essence a second time, an advanced technique. She wondered if the pirate could do it, and then let the gray dust of their remains fall from her open palm. It took a few moments for the spell to take effect. The dark of the thick fog bank grew brighter, not that it aided invisibility, but her ears began to pick up movement, though distant. The air was moist, and the smell and taste were exactly what one might expect in a swamp like this, the staleness leaving a foul flavor on her tongue.
I'll be back.
Well, she shouldn't be licking the ground. Brushing off as much of the remaining mud as she could, she stepped into the soupy fog and was gone. He scratched his beard, shrugged, and made quick to check his ship. A tune began to rattle in his head. Dare he sing it? Since birth, he had heard nothing but tales of the horrors that lived beneath the sky, the terrors that stalked the land below.
Ah, bugger it.
Oh, I once knew a lass, and her name was Ash, and her skin was fair and pale. And though she nearly had a care from her toes to her hair, she's the hero of this tale.
The words came to him on a whim, each line writing itself as it was sung. Of course, he didn't know anyone named Ash, but it made for a jaunty tune.
On her hand was a mark, in her heart was a spark, a phoenix set to flame. But her heart wasn't true, she confessed to a prude, and her life felt rather lame.
Yeah.
Sally ho, here we go, adventure is for thee. Sally ho, here we go, a love you won't know, you see.
Oh, that's sad. The crack of a branch cut his song short as he turned around. Something darkened the edge of the fog, and what looked like an array of jewels reflected the dim light from the ship's lantern.
Well, would you look at that?
The darkness surged forward. Leanna was glad she had at least worn good boots, but between the mud and the fact that she had failed to wear proper exploration gear, she was feeling a great deal of discomfort. She had been marking her path with firefly lights, dandelions, sunflower seeds, and a pinch of rose to color them red, and trying her best to leave them at consistent intervals. She couldn't quite see how many she had left in her wake, but it had easily been half an hour since she started walking. She told herself more than once that she would just walk. That she would walk just a single additional interval and then head back, but that had easily been 40 intervals ago. The alien-looking flora kept catching her eye, and she would crouch down to record it in her journal. She did so again, gently running her fingers down the plant's long leaves to feel their texture. Biting the end of her pencil, she thought for a moment before writing.
Plant named Cat Scratches has a faintly spicy undertone, waxy exterior.
And don't forget frog farts that are tubular, acrid scent. Is it parasitic or symbiotic? Very moss-like. Potential defensive spell use. Cat scratch. The small owl hopped off her shoulder and onto the roots of a tree, which were peeking out from beneath a shallow pool. Oh, he's so cute. His eyes were wide as he cooed insistently.
You want to pick something for me?
He let out an excited proot. A wide array of plants were growing where Stolas was dancing. She saw a puff of orange flowers, a luminescent mushroom that looked like it had bred with a jellyfish, and a few sprigs of frog farts and cat scratches.
Okay, well, let's see.
Which plant should Stolas grab? I like the mushroom.
That mushroom!
It was bigger than Stolas himself, but with some difficulty he was able to free it from the muddy ground. He hopped back to her, and she helped him put the mushroom into one of her many pouches for the purpose.
Very nice.
As it doesn't quite fit in her pouch, but okay. The witch grinned before turning back to her exploration. She told herself she should head back, but something, an instinct, drove her forward. And her foot got stuck in another mud pool. Good instincts. She felt especially driven when that happened. With a grunt, she wrenched her foot free. There was something just ahead. She was sure of it. And then, there it was. As though the fog had shifted solely to make the reveal, a monolith stone pyramid rested before her, not half another interval ahead of where she stood.
Wow.
He cooed softly. The stones were freshly cut, neatly too. The edges were practically sharp. The sides and plateaus of each level were near sheer. These looked like they may have been cut with tools of the old world. Though she conceded with enough care and time the same effect could have been achieved with a simple chisel. She wasn't one to jump to conclusions. She brushed a hand against the surface and at once felt something alien. Magic so unfamiliar she recoiled. Images of ancient aliens sprung to her mind, but she mentally stomped them out. Stomp, stomp, stomp. She refused to even entertain such fancies. A walk of the perimeter of the building took her half as long as it had taken her to find it. It was enormous, and where had this much stone been found in the middle of a swamp? She mapped the outside, marking the entrance she had chosen to pass on her first lap before returning to it. A shiver ran through her spine as she stared into the darkness, even her enhanced senses failing to penetrate far.
Don't shy back now, Liana.
Yeah, you found your destination. She reached into her satchel and withdrew a fistful of dandelions. It was far from the most efficient light spell, but seeing as dandelions could replace any component in sufficient quantity, and they were as plentiful as, well, dandelions, she thought it better to save her rarer components for more demanding spells. She drew in the magic, once again, drawing in twice before exhaling on her pen, lacking anything else handy. With a guarded breath, she stepped forward into the dark. Oh, Anne never really got a good look at whatever had captured him. Somehow, he felt no fear, as he had been grasped by a seething mass of tiny hands and carried off into the swamp. He wondered if his lack of fear was due to his being a rather poor judge of character or an excellent judge. It had always been so difficult to get a read on other witches. Perhaps he had a knack for swamp monsters. The efficiency with which the creature, or perhaps creatures, carried him was remarkable. Despite the apparent lack of height, he rarely felt any part of him touch the earth. Even with the bag, apparently made of a lizard skin of some sort, over his head, he could tell that they were traveling quickly. The creature, or creatures, would stop occasionally, however, and through the scales of the bag, Anne could see a faint red glow that floated softly on the air. Whatever he said. A high-pitched, guttural chittering sounded as a pair of hands let go, and he heard an excited clapping, as though the creature were trying to catch the lights.
Do ye be liking them?
More of the guttural chittering. Seems there were several creatures.
It be magic.
Guttural chittering again.
Magic.
Yes. Ah. And started. Did the creatures understand?
Do ye be wanting magic?
Magic!
I think I can be helping ye there.
The further she got inside, the more Liana realized how immense the complex was. Whoa. The insides grew larger, each set of stones seeming to pull away from her until the light she cast was no more than a tiny pool of light beneath her feet and the walls beyond her pen's reach. Her footsteps echoed until she could tell she was in an enormous chamber. She needed to see more. She reached into her pouches, groping for the materials for a stronger light spell. Something scraped against the stone. Something immense. She shifted her hands, drawing the herbs for a more offensive magic.
Who are you? I had thought all the humans were dead. Or at least weren't human anymore.
Ooh. Slowly it came into view. Her jaw dropped in recognition. It was a dinosaur skull.
Oh.
Oh no, it's gonna eat her owl. The creature sniffed the air.
Such an array of plants. A witch. I had thought the humans had burnt and drowned your kind into extinction, long before I had perished.
Oh my. Stolas made a soft noise.
How?
Cursed herself for her now monosyllabic vocabulary. How?
Who are you? What are you?
Necromancy. Or a flavor of it. It's a rather consistent magic, you know, across many worlds.
That's true.
As for the who, I am what you might call a mother.
Oh.
I was still for a long time. And it will not be long before I am still once more.
Weird.
My clutch will be alone. And industrious as they are, they know nothing of the world.
I'm starting to get the impression I'm in the same boat.
Yes, you also know nothing. Ah, Jon Snow, you know nothing. She drew in a breath of the magic surrounding her. She could taste the necromancy the creature spoke of. Spiraling stars. What kind of spell could produce something like that? The creature shifted, agitated.
Tell me, witch, how old are you?
Ah, this will be interesting.
122. Almost exactly.
Oh,
Then you were here when the world awakened once more. When the magics that animated my bones to protect my clutch stirred, and they too began to develop for the first time in millennia.
Yes, I was there. I was there when it happened. I was barely done being a student. It was my first job, a researcher for a prestigious lab. Our work was supposed to give us access to magic beyond anything any witch could harness at the time. I was in a hazard suit, directly beside the machinery, activating spells and devices at the command of my seniors. I was there when it happened. I was the one who opened the rupture.
Oh, man. Why had she confessed to that? That's a good question.
Then I thank you, witch. You gave my children a life they could not have had in the world before.
And what of the lives lost?
Death comes for us all. Even me. Even now.
True.
That's it? Just people die? All those people dead because of me.
You cannot save the lives lost to the rupture, as you call it. So I ask you, instead, to consider the lives you can save now. I can sense it in you. A truly awesome power. Do you choose to hide that flame, in penance of how you obtained it? Or do you choose to protect this world you've created?
Oh, man.
I can't. I mean, I don't even know where to begin.
I am afraid I can offer you no guidance there. My time is over. Your presence hastening the end of my spell.
Yeah. So you've killed yet somebody else.
Please,
Way to go.
help my children to live in your world. One day, they will help you to live in it as well.
Oh, without another world. Word. The skull clattered to the ground, and a cacophony of bones sounded as an entire skeleton collapsed. She stepped forward, casting her meager light over the still form. Though the head had been familiar, that of a dinosaur, every other bone seemed an alien to her, and as the light flickered, she could see enormous wings.
Spiraling stars.
I told you it'd be faster to fly.
What did I miss? Oh, several dozen of the oversized lizards clung to every part of his ship. He wondered exactly how many there were. Well, there are at least 3. They chittered excitedly, occasionally shouting in unison, "Ship!" or once in a while, "Boat!" Aw, look at this blue one with green chin. Its arms almost look like balls. Very cute. But I like the one on the steps the best. It's just got one snaggle tooth. Whoa. Ah, they're kobolds. Purple baby kobolds. Which one's, I guess, the one up there?
Magic!
Yeah. Get wide, baby. Also known as fat. The one who had spoken first, and another rather colorful companion stood at Anne's side, waving their arms wildly as the ship gently curved through the air. Anne was already getting a hang of controlling the ship, and found himself banking gently left and right to help control his speed with the sails. The expediency with which the creature seemed to pick up his language delighted him. Silently, he wondered if he could recruit them as crew. Probably. The wide, colorful one set up a gout of flame, nearly catching the sails.
Bugger me! Don't be doing that, laddies. Or ladies. I reckon I can't quite tell.
Bah! They seemed to ignore him, as all at once, flames erupted in every direction, thankfully away from the ship. They lit the night and burnt away the fog, revealing the enormous ziggurat long before Anne needed to crash to avoid it. Guess that's one way to put down. Alright, well, that is part 2. I will be back to do more. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next part.